Welcome to High Infidelity, the best cheating videos on YouTube. If you enjoy this content, remember to subscribe and turn on notifications. Now let's get into the video.
My 29 male wife, 27 female, has been working from home the past few months and has started having her high school ex over a lot. I told her this is unacceptable. Am I out of the wrong for this? Hello and welcome to everyone. I recognize that the title may be confusing if you don't know what I'm talking about, so please bear with me while I explain. As a result, my wife has worked from home since the beginning of COVID. Due to the fact that my company would never let us to do so, I was forced to drive to work every day. She has a friend with whom she socializes on a regular basis. He's been invited to hang out with the two of us in the past as well. He's courteous, pleasant to be around, and generally well-behaved. This hasn't been a problem for me thus far. When my wife and I started dating, she told me that she had dated him in high school. According to her, they were in a relationship throughout their freshman and sophomore years. They never had relations, but they did have a good time. It was during their senior year that they started to rekindle their friendship. He was in a relationship with a girlfriend at the time, who was also seeing someone else. She says that after they divorced, there was no longer any romantic attraction between the two of them. My wife said that she would be able to work from home once COVID was up and running. I was glad and thrilled for her since I knew it would be easier and even save her money on gas if she went this route. She said that her friend would be able to work from home as well, and that they may meet up sometimes to look over their work and provide assistance to one another. They both work in a similar field. When I returned home one day, he was waiting for me. Since my wife had told me of the situation, I didn't give it much thought. They were both in front of computers and seemed to be working quite hard. For a time, things were like this. After a few weeks, I'd return home to find them casually hanging around and having a good time with each other. They'd be playing a game at one point, drinking at another, and eating at yet another point throughout the evening. This was beginning to seem bizarre to me. He seemed to be getting more attention than I was, and she appeared to be having a more enjoyable time with him than I was having with him. Finally, when I returned home one day, it was the last straw. While they were watching television, they were both seated on the couch, with her head resting on his lap. Prior to conversing with her, I waited until he had left the room. I was outraged at the time. I screamed at her, telling her that their actions were terrible and that she had no reason to be sleeping with a friend who was acting inappropriately. I expressed my concern that she seemed to be paying more attention to him than to her husband, and that they appeared to be having more fun together than we were. Not to mention the fact that they had previously dated and gotten into trouble. She grew upset and said that I had no authority to tell her that she could no longer be in the same vicinity as another person. The fact that I thought she was cheating on me with him enraged her, and she pledged that she was not and would not do so in the future. She said that all they were doing was relaxing, and that it was totally okay for her to put her head on his lap while they were doing so. He hadn't been at home for the previous 2 days when I got home from my work trip. She says she hasn't seen him since we last spoke with one other. I expressed my regret for being so upset. She doesn't seem to have accepted my apologies, as she has remained relatively quiet in my presence ever after I apologized. What actions can I take to make things better? Is she attempting to deceive you? What is the best way to tackle the problem between her and her friend? Update. Last week, I wrote about my wife spending time at our house with an ex-boyfriend from high school, and I wanted to share that experience with you. In fact, he had been visiting her and working from home with her from the beginning of COVID. When I initially saw them, I didn't think much of it, since they were just aiding one another with their respective jobs. After that, they started to socialize and participate in other activities. When I saw her laying down with her head resting on his lap, I knew I'd had enough. I informed her that he would no longer be permitted to visit. She was upset and took offense, but she agreed to go through with it. The vast majority of people in this room agreed with me that her actions were questionable. According to the information I was given, he might still come over during the day and depart before I arrived. As a result, I decided to purchase a camera that I could put up and hide while at the office. I put one in the living area and the other in the bedroom for easy access. On the first day they were up, there was nothing out of the usual that happened. It happened on the second day of the experiment. The ex-boyfriend showed up. At first, they were merely doing their jobs, but as time went on, he began to get more physical with her. It progressed to the point where they demanded access to our bedroom and the requirement to sleep together. I was really taken aback. I was completely at a loss for what to do. As soon as I saw my wife again, I asked her whether she was still seeing him. She said she wasn't. She categorically refused to accept it. I told her that I had installed surveillance cameras throughout the house. Her facial expression changed dramatically at that time. She was very aware of what she had seen. She fell into tears as soon as she heard the news. I informed her that she would have to leave the house. The woman made many unsuccessful attempts to apologize and explain herself, but I was not buying it. Since then, we've only talked to each other on the phone once. I told her that I couldn't see anything else occurring in the near future but a divorce. She expressed her dissatisfaction with this and asked if I would be willing to participate in couples counseling once before making a final decision. I agreed, if grudgingly. Not expecting it to be successful, I'm mostly attempting it to entertain my girlfriend. At the time of writing this, I'm still looking for and trying to contact a divorce attorney. Story 2. My wife, 29 female, did some things when she cheated on me 2 years ago that I, 31 male, would like to do now. Yes, she confessed to me 4 months ago that she had an affair with my closest buddy 2 years ago. As horrible as it was, we got it through as a couple. I forgave her, and our relationship is arguably the greatest it has ever been. I'm still a little emotional about the entire situation, so I hacked, guessed her password, into her email and brought up some emails and conversations, which Google apparently kept, and after reeling from all the nonsense, I realized something. She had a thing for talking filthy with this man. We've never done that in our 8 years of marriage. She seemed to be using phrases that I had believed were off limits, and she was talking about how it turned her on in the conversation. Now, I know I shouldn't have hacked her email and read them, but I believe it would enrich our experience together if we did some of that. But how do I approach her? I mean, I believe that's something she's always desired, but she's never said anything about it. Do you think if I bring it up, she'll recognize what I've discovered? Should I simply tell her what happened? I just wanted to get some feedback. Update. Consequently, when I returned home tonight, the subject was brought up immediately, which seemed unusual at the time, but we've been having a lot of serious discussions previously, so the pump had been primed, so to speak. I inquire as to whether she is content or fulfilled in bed, and she responds affirmatively. As an afterthought, I bring up the fact that I've been thinking a lot about my old best friend, the one she cheated on me with, and can't help but wonder whether he did anything in that area in which I don't do anything at all. Because our relationship was so dried up and thin at the time, she confessed that there were numerous things he did that she thought were appealing at the time, but that she didn't actually like, just because it felt wonderful at the time. In the next conversation, she said that there had been so many changes in me since then, I had gotten my act together and won her back, that she now found me even more attractive than she did before. Even though I gained weight, which was a point of contention before. The conversation then got really entertaining, and I naturally started to make jokes about her up and other such topics. Things went well, and we spoke about the things we liked about each other more in bed afterward. Once we put the kids to sleep, we were able to have some wonderful, sensuous time together. More has to be spoken, in my opinion, but we must take things one step at a time. Despite the fact that it's just been 4 months since this was published, I'm still walking carefully. Things, on the other hand, are getting better. Everyone, thank you very much for your aid. I was apprehensive about posting, but you all offered me great advice, and it has turned out to be a safe and productive environment for me.